Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of PoCommunity. I'm Mike Garboyd and I'm sitting here with B. Chan and Dana Harvey. They are the sisters in psychedelics. How's it going, guys?
Great. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you guys coming on, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you guys about this interesting subject today. So
Definitely.
tell me a little bit about Sisters in Psychedelics and how it came to be.
Sure, I'll let Dana kick us off.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for hosting us here. I've spent a lot of years in the Tri-Cities, and it's really nice to be back spending some time here again. I'll just start by telling you a little bit about my story, and it kind of feeds into the bigger story of Sisters in Psychedelics. But for me personally, I spent about 30 years developing a career in corporate communications all around the world, working for new technologies and emerging industries. So I had a real niche in this area. So as psychedelics, which we'll talk more about what those are later on, but as psychedelics, these ancient plant modalities kind of came into the Western world and sort of re-emerged in research and as an industry and grew into an emerging industry. It really made sense for me to be recruited into that industry. So I started off my career in psychedelics as CCO and head of investor relations for a publicly traded psychedelic medicine company. Now, that was a super interesting experience for me because I had, by that time in my life, had some pretty profound transformational experiences with psychedelic medicine myself. And it was a beautiful opportunity for me to marry the powerful potential of these medicines that I'd experienced with learning about the research, the science, the history, the politics, and what had shut down the research around them for so many years, and to really feel like I was doing my part in helping to educate other people about the real good that psychedelics can do in certain circumstances, and to help destigmatize what has become so stigmatized in our world, these ancient plant modalities that have been used since the beginning of time with no harm and no toxicity, by the way. So I, penultimate career position, everything looked good from the outside, ticked all the boxes of success, but something just wasn't kind of settling right for me. I had some other things going on in my life that needed more balance, and just that little missing something that I think so many of us have at times in our life. And at that point in my life, I had the opportunity to have therapeutically assisted psychedelic medicine, and came to this profound realization that it was time for me to switch my career and to stop working in my head so much, and to start using my heart and using the coaching and mentoring skills that I developed for so long, along with all the information and evidence-based knowledge that I now had to go along with psychedelics, and to really help people who were reading the headlines, who were learning about these medicines, and who were wondering if they might be helpful for them, to work with them to ensure that if they were going to be using these medicines, that they knew how to do so safely, and they were well supported, and they had a container in which to learn all about that and be really supported by supportive community. So I resigned from my position. I dove deeply into training around plant medicines, learning how they're used, learning how they have been traditionally used, learning how people can safely use them, until I got to a point where I could actually support people in their exploration. And I was traveling along in this way, feeling really settled about what I was doing, getting, it's so rewarding to help people in this way. And at that point in my life, I met B. Chan, my soul sister. And I just turn it over to you to carry on from there.
Sure. Thank you, Dana. Similar to Dana's experience, I was also working in corporate, way shorter though, only 7 years. And I kind of gradually I guess, like unveiled the curtains and realized that, material success didn't equal to happiness. And so at that point, I did the most logical thing. I quit my job and I bought a one-way ticket to Asia. And that was about 4.5 years ago. And while I was there, I just kind of fell into entrepreneurship, worked with some pretty brilliant business owners and operators. I fell into digital marketing, kind of self-taught myself that, and also was introduced to plant medicine and psychedelics. So being the late bloomer that I was in my late 20s, that's when I tried psychedelics for the first time. A little bit atypical, right? than the average. And so my first time was actually Thai mushrooms. And guess what? They didn't work. They didn't work. Meaning I don't think I took a big enough dose for me to feel like I was any different. So I tried maybe 2 more times, and they still only gave me a slight buzz of a feeling, kind of like I drank a glass of beer or something like that. And so at that point, I thought, you know what, like I tried this, I can just check it off my bucket list. I'm done. I don't need to explore this any further. It wasn't until COVID hit. I came home because otherwise I've been trapped over there for a while. And I realized that I wasn't quite ready to be back in Canada yet. And so a lot of my nomadic friends, they all went down to Mexico because you didn't need to quarantine, you didn't need to do any testing and things like that. And it was normal, right? Pre-COVID life. And so as I was down there, I spent about 9 months altogether on and off, really just deep diving into plant medicine, group ceremonies, learning what setting, safety, intention, dosing, and all that type of stuff. And finally, when I came back home, I was really craving and looking for that psychedelic-focused community specifically for women. And I found some communities. So for example, MAPS Canada is based here in Vancouver. We have the Vancouver Psychedelic Society, which is also based here, but nothing specifically for women. And so along my exploration and discoveries of other people in this community, in this industry, I would say, met Dana. She was looking for the same thing, and we just kind of thought to ourselves, there must be more than just the 2 of us who's looking for this. And so we threw something up on Meetup, and in November of 2021, we had a potluck dinner at my condo, and 15 women, all strangers, showed up, and we just laughed and cried all night as we shared our stories of healing transformation. Yeah. And so that is what really seeded Sisters in Psychedelics. And since then, I would say it kind of came to life on its own in a way. So we were the first ones to offer a women's integration circle here in Vancouver. We, for some reason, decided it was a great idea to pull together a conference. And so September of last year, we had our inaugural Sisters in Psychedelics Summit. That was about 150 people in attendance, 800 in virtual live stream, 33 women, all women speakers. And we had a really, really good time in just sharing the expert knowledge of all these people that were willing to come on stage and talk about their experiences and their expertise. The reason why we decided to put on a conference in, 4 months, 3-4 months or something like that, was in response to a couple of things. First, really in response to the other industry conferences that we see, which has an 8-to-1 male to female ratio of speakers. And we're in 2022 back then, 2023 now, like that really shouldn't be the case. Let's really elevate, women's voices and other underrepresented voices here. Secondly, I really wanted to put Vancouver on the map within the psychedelic global ecosystem. I think that our American counterpart has a lot of attention, a lot of funding, and all those people flock there, and they're always making the news, which is great. But there's also some really special local leaders here in Canada, specifically here in BC, that also needs that spotlight as well.
That's amazing. That's a great journey story right there. It's obviously there's still a stigma that people, like general population, has, but you're talking these numbers of this many people coming forward when it's technically illegal, right? Mm-hmm. But would there be, like, you guys are calling it psychedelic medicine? Is there a difference between psychedelic medicine and like psychedelics, or is it kind of in the same same realm.
What do you think, Dana?
I think what we're talking about here is psychedelic use for health and wellness and for personal development. So psychedelic, the word psychedelic means mind manifesting. So, and the history of psychedelics, people think that this is new and that it's a drug and maybe it's a party drug. Psychedelics have their root and their history in plant medicines that have opened up people's hearts or minds to be able to see things and experiencing things and have different perspectives on things. And indigenous peoples of all our lands have used plant medicines for ritual, for ceremony, for health, for wellness, for healing since the beginning of time. Psychedelics are nothing new. And I think often we'll use the word plant medicine because plant medicine is kind of a softer word for it because psychedelic has so much stigma around it. Psychedelics were introduced into the West in the 1950s by Gordon Wasson. And they were studied, researched in depth by governments, by the US government, by the Canadian government, used by our military. And we're having incredible results from the research as far as helping people with, particularly with clinical diagnoses of treatment-resistant depression, of PTSD,
anxiety, depression,
substance use issues. What happened is these plant medicines, these molecules, got out of the research facilities and into the counterculture. And the counterculture at that time, the late 60s and 70s, was a pretty scary thing for the government, particularly in the States. And they did not like the effect that these mind-manifesting medicines were having on the counterculture that was going against the war in Vietnam, many things that the government was promoting. And the American government came up with the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they shut down, they reclassified psychedelics as being one of the most harmful, one of the most addictive, the least beneficial drugs around. And they just like cold turkey stopped all the research on them. Although up till that date, like hundreds and thousands of people had gone through research and clinical trials and the results were there, but they just wanted to shut it down. And that is where the stigma developed.
Yeah.
And it's taken 50 years for the research to come back on board, for regulators to come back on board. There are multiple jurisdictions in the States now where psychedelics and plant medicines are fully legal. You can access psychedelics and plant medicines in Canada for medical use, for treatment-resistant depression, and for PTSD in certain circumstances. There's a process you need to go through. And the city of Canada's coming on board. The city of Vancouver and the Vancouver police have pretty much decided that any kind of prosecution around psychedelics and plant medicines is the very bottom lowest of their priority list. Yeah. So it is not legal here. Mm-hmm. It is not decriminalized, but it is also not being enforced. Yeah, I kind of have rambled on there on what are psychedelics.
To add to what Dana was saying, there are specific ways where people can access legal psychedelic use. So, for example, ketamine is a legal psychedelic that doctors use, like hospitals use, right, as a anesthesia, right? There's also ketamine clinics all over North America. There's also the Special Access Program that has been running since, was it like 2 years ago, 2021 starting? And so that is, for specific people, of course, working with their doctors to get access to, I believe it's psilocybin medicine. So yeah, there's different ways to accessing it. It's just not accessible to all at this point.
Yeah. It's Vancouver's always been kind of
we're special.
Yeah, we're open to things, even though the law might say differently.
Exactly.
But I know personally, like this industry, I know many people interested in or involved in it, and the positive side effects, like just life effects that this has for people, is staggering, and the numbers are staggering, and it just shows that it seems that it's not always what's best for the people that they push.
Yeah.
It's the money-making stuff, because this is essentially coming from our ground, and it's healing medication. And from personal experience and just people I know, the dreamlike state that it puts you in, that it opens up your dreams in a way where you see things differently and clearly, and kind of, you guys said it best, like with depression and stuff. The amount of people that it's not always what you picture, either the type of people, what the stigma shows. It's like everyday people that have used this at the lowest times in their life, and it literally revives them. It's staggering. So like, obviously that happened to you guys, where you had changed your whole career path down this road. But how difficult has it been cutting those, like getting around those corners and those edges that, yeah, there's just a gray area of legality and promoting this and doing this as a business?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think for us at SIP, because we're not selling any product, we're more of a community, a platform that's focused on like education, I would say, on harm reduction, and just really, a group of us that are spending time together in community, really. So I don't think that really affects us in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have
We're arm's length
Yeah.
from anything that might be construed as illegal.
Yeah.
But we are, providing evidence-based education. We're providing supportive community. We're providing opportunities to learn and develop and grow together with like-minded women who are also curious about plant medicines or using plant medicines for personal healing, for development and growth.
And I will also add that, like, for any of the events that we throw, we have a pretty strict, like, no soliciting, no buying, no selling illicit substances rule.
Yeah, we do get
Yeah,
asked
nice.
sometimes, like, oh, so Sisters
yeah.
in Psychedelics, so do you guys like sit around and do drugs together or something? It's like, no, we don't.
We're not
That'd
that
be
cool.
fun. But yeah, no, that's amazing too. And just you guys, I know you guys have something coming up in the summer, an event. Obviously, you guys started doing this during COVID together, right? Now that COVID's passed and the events are like, you can push them pretty hard and there's no limit to what you can do with it. Are you seeing like huge just reactions to it, and just like more like a surprise of how many people are involved in this and might not talk about it as frequently just because of that stigma?
I think what's really coming to light is that so many people are curious. They're reading the headlines. They're reading Rolling Stone, Vice, Vogue, Vancouver Sun, Georgia Straight. It's everywhere, and people are curious. They want to know about it. And so what we're seeing this year with our ticket sales already is a lot of people who are not already involved as professionals or in the industry, or have not already been using plant medicines for a number of years already, but people are coming out who are really curious about going a little bit deeper than just the headlines. Like, what really is this, and what is there to learn, and who are the people who are doing this, and even what are the investment opportunities.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot more of people who have not been exposed to plant medicines and psychedelics in the past expressing their curiosity and coming out to join us.
It's kind of it's reminding me of like just the years prior to marijuana legalization, where it was like they started doing more studies and seeing the positives, and more like media was covering it, the positives behind it. And as soon as it starts kind of going into that direction, you see it opening up the minds of many different people. You saw marijuana legalization. You see people in dispensaries now. 10 years ago, you would never have seen those people in dispensaries. You see like older like ladies and men like in their 60s, 70s walking into a dispensary because they're being told it's okay now. Right? So it's kind of, in a way, kind of a little bit crappy that it's that way, where it's like, oh, you have to be told by a certain person in power that it's okay for you, when in reality the science is there. It proves that it's beneficial. Like you guys said, it's been used for literally, I think, since the dawn of humanity. Any kind of people in doing their spiritual like just awakenings and all these things and using it in their culture. It was so vastly used, and all of a sudden, just bam, our Western culture hated it, and it doesn't make any sense. So, and you guys both came from corporate lives beforehand. That's where it's a good thing that you guys are coming from somewhere that it's not the most widely conversated topic in corporate, right? So it's just nice to see that it's becoming more, like the actual science behind it is making it more accepted.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like you do have that event. Let's bring that up. Where and when is it happening?
So it's happening July 14th to 16 at the Hilton Vancouver Burnaby, or Metrotown in Burnaby. And this year we're really excited because last year was our first time in September. It was a one-day event. This year it's spanning over 3 days. So on Friday evening we have a welcome reception. Saturday all day we have presentations. I think this year we have around 38 speakers or so. Again, all experts who happen to be women. From all over, mostly from Vancouver, but all over Canada and US as well. So they're flying up to be sharing their knowledge with us. So we're really honored. Saturday evening, we have for VIP ticket holders only, a connection ceremony, something really special planned. And then Sunday morning, back to presentations. And Sunday afternoon, we have first time that we're doing deep dive workshops. So we have some select topics that we've picked out already that we think the crowd would really like. And I also want to mention that this year we are introducing the inaugural Soul Sisters of the Year Awards, which would be really interesting for us.
That's cool. So what I want to bring up is just like there's so many different kinds of psychedelics now. Do you see like some being more beneficial for your health than others? Is there like certain ones that you guys find you would promote and go to more than others?
For me, I think what it all comes down to is when you are using plant medicines as medicine, it is not the experience itself that is really going to be transformational. We all have our inner healers, and these plants help us to access our inner healers and to work with our inner healers. And it's the preparation work and the integration work that comes after the experience itself, that surround the experience, that actually make them very transformational. And so when you are thinking about using plant medicine, what you really are thinking about is what is your intention for using plant medicine? What are you hoping to get out of it? What is going on for you in your life? And it's kind of that intention which can inform which kind of psychedelic or which kind of plant medicine might be best for you to access what you're wanting to access within yourself. So
that's a great answer, because like it's that to know that there's like almost like a training might not be the best, but just like sessions before to learn about what's going to be best, because just knowing that like psychedelic medicine is amazing, but if somebody's not in a proper head state for that certain psychedelic, it could be like the opposite of what it really should be doing to that person. It could put them in a really dark place, right?
Setting,
So it's doing that research yourself and not just going out with your friends and all in different mind states and expecting to have the same high and the same just visions. It's not going to happen. So the fact that you guys are going in there and like figuring that out, like finding out what is going to be beneficial to these people, because there's so, like I said, so many different kinds of medicines you can use, and everybody's different. Not one is going to be good for all of them.
Yeah. Adding to what Dana said, I think for preparation and integration, it's also a way of harm reduction as well. So making sure that no harm comes to you or other people that you're with that might be partaking. And also, I was going to take this in a different direction and say, well, legally, we can only talk about legal things. But actually, we have a panel discussion at the summit this year where we're going to be talking about legal and unregulated psychedelic medicine. So I think that would be a really good one to tune into. Yeah,
well, and obviously, like, I guess psychedelics weren't added to the list of drugs that Vancouver's like allowing people to carry. Is it? Like
some of them are.
Some of them,
a couple of them are. But there are other ones that are not regulated at all. There's one called 5-MeO-DMT, known as the God molecule, which is probably the most powerful psychedelic. Is actually not even regulated one way or another. It's not classified. Ketamine is one that you can legally access through through your doctor. And there are a number of other ones too that we'll be talking about at the conference. So people can, if they're curious about it, but that legality issue is what's holding them back, let's talk about what things you could explore that could give you that mind manifesting opportunity.
Yeah, that reminds me of when I was growing up, and it was what was very popular. I honestly don't know much about it, but salvia was that gray area where like literally they didn't have any laws against it.
It's the same.
They didn't know what it was. So
exactly.
people, and that stuff was very easy to come by as a young, like in high school and stuff. But it was because of that, like they just didn't have any information or knowledge about what the stuff was really doing.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea how it's made. I have no idea if it's good, if it's a bad psychedelic medicine. But I know it was being used quite frequently because of the short amount of time it would last on people too. Like it was definitely a lot of people I know that were very interested in psychedelics. That was like a starting point, because it's like if you can get through this 5 minutes.
Gateway.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, guys. I want people to kind of break their own stigma on this whole this industry, because it's the positives highly outweigh any negatives that surround it. So I'm glad you guys came on the show, and I really want people to learn more, especially women watching this that might like it's there's so many different kinds of groups for women to have this for safe reasons. Like it's not it's something I think a lot of people think about themselves, like if this is good for them, but having a support group like that's amazing. So I would really want you guys to share where people can find you guys, how they can learn more about this event, and just being part of your community.
For sure. Before we give out, how to follow us, how to connect with us, I do want to make a note that the SIP Summit is for everybody, every gender. Doesn't matter. We invite everybody to come in and learn more. We will have more of a women-focused topics and whatnot, but it's also good for other people to like walk in our shoes once in a while so you can understand and empathize. So some of the topics that we will be talking about this year, we just finalized our programming, so we're really excited about this. One is like motherhood and plant medicine. Another one we're going to be talking about that I'm really excited for is like the dark side of psychedelics. Like what are some things that's happening in our industry that we don't normally talk about but is out there, right? Anything else that comes to mind?
Those are the big ones. Also, just how to build a business in the psychedelic realm, or if you have experienced psychedelics, for example, and you think like, wow, I think I'd really like to help people with the knowledge that I have. What are the career opportunities for you in the psychedelic realm? So how could you transition out of what you're doing now into the psychedelic realm, much as B and I have, if that's of interest to you as well? And then we have things like we have breathwork experiences. We have a little Kundalini dance, deep dive workshop, nature-based cannabis workshop. Basically, it's just, I encourage you to look at the program because it's very broad, and I'm sure for everybody there is something that's going to appeal to them there.
That's amazing. I've enjoyed this like I could talk about this topic forever, just because it's interesting to me, and I kind of just like the area that it's in because I feel like it's got so much growth now, and it's being, you're allowed to let it grow. Like we're allowed to see it grow. Because I just think people are becoming more accepting. Even the people in charge are becoming more accepting, and it's just the benefits, especially after these last few years. Like people, I find, are more mind screwed than ever. Whether their lives got just like overhauled like crazy during the pandemic, or even if they're in their same, like exact same schedule of life that they were in during the pandemic, but getting through it and just in the mental strain. I mean, here we deal with small business owners, so this conversation has come up more often in the last. We've been here 3 years, so like I'd say like the last year and a half, a year with people, because we had a member that was involved in this industry, and it's becoming more widely, like there's conversation about it with everyone, and business owners knowing how stressed most of them were the last few years. This is definitely something that helps them. Also, as business owners, you have to be somewhat creative with how you build your business, change on the fly if there's problems. this sometimes is one of the only ways to like almost relax your brain to think again. I know for a personal experience, it's been hard to think. It's been honestly hard to think as business owners and entrepreneurs the last few years that anything, especially stuff that's so like proven for centuries upon centuries, hundreds, thousands of years, finally coming back in the forefront and being like, it's like real medication, real medicine instead of the addictive, terrible stuff that they've given us the last 100 years. It's amazing to see people as gutsy as you guys are too, believing something that probably was comfortable, to do something like this that's going to be, it's climate changing. It's like it's going to change the way that we look at stuff in the future. So I appreciate what you guys do. It's an amazing story, and I would love to talk to you guys again, whether it be on this podcast or we've talked in the future about having you on our other podcast, because it's a great topic and great conversation.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and if anybody wants to follow us, keep in contact, or find out more about the summit, please visit us at our website. It's sistersinpsychedelics.org, or you can find us on LinkedIn and on Instagram at Sisters in Psychedelics.
Well, thank you so much, guys, and thank you guys for watching and listening this week. Have a good one.